Breath of the Wild has been out for about 4 years now, and within those 4 years, we as the player base have learned a lot about how the game works. Speedruns of the game can now be completed in roughly 30 minutes, which is a pretty impressive feat to watch. The reason that's even possible is due to the sheer amount of interactivity and freedom that the game world provides. Nintendo and the team behind Breath of the Wild gave us a sandbox and a ton of cool toys to play with, and the only limitation for us as players is our own imagination. That being said, some of these interactions aren't as straightforward as you might expect, and as a result, there are still new things being discovered about this game to this day. So, in the spirit of sharing information, and as an excuse to show off some cool and some hopefully useful things in a game that I really love, here are 5 things that you may not have known were possible in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So let's start with something pretty cool. I actually learned about this one just a few weeks ago, so I'm not exactly sure how well known it might be, but it did take me by surprise. This one involves chew jellies. In Breath of the Wild, you can encounter a couple different types of chews, and all of them drop a specific type of jelly related to that type of chew. So a red chew will drop red chew jelly, white will drop white jelly, yellow will drop yellow, and so on and so forth. You get the picture. What you might not realize is that because these jellies come from elemental enemies, with red being fire, white being ice, and yellow being electricity, the jellies actually carry over those same properties, which means you can use them to both solve puzzles or as an offensive/defensive weapon. By placing a jelly on the ground and shooting it with an arrow, you can cause it to explode and create an area of effect of whatever element it was. Fire is probably the most useful here, since it can light cooking pots, create updrafts, and be used to light enemies on fire. Ice and electric are also really useful, but a little more limited in their uses. But I'm sure you guys can come up with way more creative uses for these jellies with just this information alone. Oh, and one more thing, just a little bonus tip for you guys. Normal chew jelly, you can actually use that to give yourself a few seconds of heat dissipation. So if you're ever in the desert or on Death Mountain, you can actually use that to survive just a little bit longer if you're missing the recommended armor set. So hey, keep that in mind, it might come in handy. Alright, moving on. Stealth is required very infrequently in Breath of the Wild. There are a few instances though where you may want to be sneaky. While you could just crouch down and use the Sheikah armor set to reduce the noise that Link makes when moving around, why do that when instead you can just completely hide yourself? Taking a page out of The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker, if you happen to stumble upon a large barrel during your adventure, did you know that you can actually pick it up and Link will place it over the top of his entire body? Yeah. By now I think you know where this is going, but while holding the barrel this way, if you stop moving, Link will place the barrel on the ground and be completely hidden. Now this doesn't work against all enemy types. Some of them are too smart and they may still attack you if they spot you moving around. But if you're careful enough, you can sneak right past most enemies and they won't even know you're there. Since stealth is so limited in the game, this isn't the most helpful tip in the world, but hey, maybe it could be used for some sort of challenge stealth run of the game. Who knows? I only realized that you could do this like a month or two ago, so I'm still pretty amazed that I completely missed this for the 4 years that the game has been out. Next up, let's talk about fishing. Breath of the Wild is actually one of the few Zelda games that doesn't have its own dedicated fishing minigame, surprisingly enough. But hey, let's say you still want to fish or you just need something to make your favorite seafood dish in the game. Well, what if I told you Link doesn't actually need a fishing pole or bait to get all the fish that he needs? No. Instead, all you need to do is whistle. Now hear me out. There's a little more involved than just going up to the coast and whistling. That's not exactly going to work. Instead, try to find an area with a lot of fish swimming around. A good spot for this is right off the coast of Cape Kresla near Lurelin Village. You'll actually see a ton of seagulls flying in the air, and right underneath them, you can usually find a ton of fish. So, use Cryonis to make an ice platform in the middle of the water behind the fish. Now, without disturbing the fish, get on top of that pillar and whistle. You may need to make 2 or 3 platforms to keep whistling and moving the fish towards the coast. Once they get scared enough to swim on land, you can easily just walk up and grab all the fish dinner you need. And that is how you fish in Breath of the Wild. Alright, so number 4. I've actually seen this one a lot online, but it's still really cool and useful, so you might actually know about this technique already, but I still think it's worth talking about. Creating an updraft to gain height with your paraglider is something everyone is probably familiar with by now. But what if I told you there's a way to get a lot more height using some not so straightforward means? So this can be done with spice peppers or sun shrooms. You'll also want to have a couple of fire arrows with you as well. All you want to do here is spread out these items on the ground. Keep them far enough apart that you only light one of them on fire at a time. Then do exactly that. Shoot one of them, jump into the air, and hopefully the created draft will lift up the others as well. Then while you're in the air, you can activate your bullet time and pull out another fire arrow, shoot the next pepper or sunshroom while you're in midair, and that will hopefully create another updraft that will continue to push the other items upward and upward. You can pretty much continue this process as much as you want to gain even more and more height. Now, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do and pull off, but if you do it right, you can get a ton of height. So I would definitely encourage you guys to practice this and try it out, because trust me, it is so useful if you get it right. Alright, lastly, number 5. So I'm sure this has happened to all of us at some point in Breath of the Wild. You've slid off a ledge, or maybe a large enemy hit you, or maybe you just accidentally blew yourself up with a remote bomb. Hey, it happens. I'm not one to judge. Either way, this could send Link ragdolling down a large cliff, and if you aren't careful, you could end up falling all the way to the bottom of whatever you were on top of. Now don't worry too much though, because there is a way to stop this. While this tip isn't flashy or cool, it can save you from having to climb all the way back up somewhere after a long fall, and of course, it could also save you some HP. So it's really simple to do. All you have to do is, as you're beginning to fall, point the control stick in the opposite direction of the way that Link is falling, and eventually, he'll recover his footing. Now, depending on the angle of the slope, you might just stop completely in your tracks, and then you'll be able to start your climb again or use Revali's Gale. But in some cases, you may just continue to slide on your feet for a little while longer until Link can regain solid footing. I'm willing to bet that some of you guys might have figured this out accidentally, but now you know exactly how it works, so I'm sure it'll be helpful to a couple of you guys out there. Anyways, there you have it. 5 things you may or may not have already known were possible in The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I know I got a lot of Zelda experts who watch my channel, so hopefully I at least showcase one thing new today. If I did, let me know which one or ones it was in the comments down below. And hey, I think it's only fair I shared some information with you guys, so now it's your turn. If you know any obscure tips or tricks like this in Breath of the Wild, post them in the comments down below as well, to not only help me, but other members of this community. I'm sure we'd all appreciate it and love to know what you guys have found out on your adventures over the past 4 years. Who knows, maybe if I get enough new things I can make a follow-up video to this one. As always, I think that's going to do it for this video, so if you guys enjoyed it, a like rating would be greatly appreciated. If you want to see more of my videos, consider subscribing. E3 is just around the corner, so I'll hopefully have plenty of new Breath of the Wild 2 videos coming out alongside all the other videos I have planned for this summer, so stay tuned for that. But once again, guys, my name is Matt. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.